We are live.
Boom. Welcome to the podcast. It's myself, Greg Serene, and my buddy Rich Ferber. What's up, Rich?
Rocking, man.
Hey, man. We did a test podcast and put it out on SoundCloud, but this is the real deal. We got video this time. How neat is that?
It's amazing and incredible what we can do, even in the most trying of times that we have these days.
We are connected from across the world, the corner of Pine and Maple Street in Burlington, Vermont.
Just don't give my actual street address, man.
I might.
Not cool.
He lives at the laundromat right on that street. That's the next street over. That's King Street.
Just warn people that I do have a guard cat, and she is vicious to me, so she is even more vicious to other people. I mean, Buddy knows. Buddy.
But yeah, your cat terrified my dog, who's roughly 5 times the weight of your cat. Buddy was terrified.
Yeah, but the difference is your dog is like so adorable and laid back, and my cat is like the biggest butthole to anything that is not a human that she doesn't know.
Speaking of the South End, do you think I think we are probably in the sketchiest neighborhood in the South End. The South End overall, because it starts where like Church Street ends. Everything beyond Church Street I would consider the South End of Burlington. And there's like a weird little pocket by like King and Maple that can get sketchy sometimes. Like, when you're
there's the one like that's a little up from us, where it's like there's a house that will remain unnamed or described, but I'm just like, I walk by it every now and then. I'm like, these people are dealing drugs out of this house.
Yeah, look, when you're a kid or when you're in high school, everyone talks about how people are going to offer you drugs, and like you grow up like that never happens. No one actually offers you drugs to your face, especially not strangers. However, for the first time in my life, I came back from, I don't know, I guess I was out that night, maybe playing music or something, and someone was shouting at me, "Hey, yo, white boy, like, you want some of that good?" And I was like, oh, it's really happening. Took me till my 26th year of life, but here it is. I feel special, man. And obviously, you go to concerts and people try to sell you stuff and whatever, but never on the street had someone shouted an offer for illicit substances at me. That was and in my neighborhood, nonetheless. Yeah. I almost called the association.
And it probably wasn't weed either. It was like, do you want to blow some baking soda? Cocaine up your nose?
The only reason I feel comfortable saying that is I am 99.999% sure nobody that lives in this neighborhood is listening to this podcast right now.
Well, I mean, if they were, they would probably know. I'm almost positive I know that particular gentleman. I've lived here for 7 years now, and it's just like, there are only so many people doing that.
And it was refreshing to be called a white racial slur.
It's not a slur though, it is, but
oh, no, I meant after that. He called Richard, he called me the H word, and it took me roughly 3 seconds to recover. I thought about it for a whole.
I like the H word. It's the C word because it just it makes me think about charcuterie and what it should be being put on, but.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe we should rank the sketchiest neighborhoods in Burlington, but I think we should just leave it to our own neighborhood. I think I don't spend enough time around town in Burlington to really call any other neighborhood out. And that's the sketchiest thing that's ever happened to me.
It's just not nice either. We're all friendly folk here, so
although,
for the most part.
Rich, I really detest graffiti, and this is a point of contention between myself and a good friend of mine. So we actually started this discussion. We both live in Burlington, and he, on the ride from Burlington to New York City, when we were going to see the Ween show, we started talking about graffiti, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see some of the awesome graffiti in New York." And I was like, "I hate graffiti." And he's like, "Why do you hate graffiti?" Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I guess I have a little bit of like get off my lawn in me. I don't know. Like, there's graffiti. It's one guy or a group of people. I'm pretty sure it's a group of people that all have the same tag. And you've seen it all over our neighborhood. It's a 4-letter tag. They got my trash can. But here's the thing. They don't tag any private property, really. They just tag public stuff. So trash cans,
I don't have a problem
poles.
I don't have a problem with that. What I have had a problem with that I've seen recently around Burlington is that there are people that are actually starting to tag buildings, And that's happened even before I lived in Burlington, but this is like a resurgence of like what I saw when I first visited here in 2006. Is that the tags suck?
Yeah, I know.
It's just like, if you're gonna do something, like at least make it art. Like
They're
you
so
just like
corny.
you're just like like
yeah. So like in
it's
New York
probably
City,
not even good. It's probably not even good aerosol. I don't even good spray paint. Like,
there's all kinds of graffiti in New York City, but in Burlington it's pretty limited. And I think the same range applies where there's a difference between graffiti and street art in my mind. I'm not part of this culture at all, so I don't know what I'm talking about if I'm sounding very uncool. But
I don't know either. So.
Like right on when you go down Pine Street, that brick building on the right hand side, like those eyes, like that does something for me. I like that. I like street art. The electrical boxes you find all over Route 7, especially like heading out of town, like. That's cool. That's like someone actually cared and spent time doing that. A similar night coming home on Pine Street from the bars, I saw somebody like bending over one of the awnings on King and Pine. And I thought they were like throwing up or something. And I was like, what? They were like just hunched over at the edge of a building. And I was like, oh, this person's sick. Like they're going to need help. And I walk closer and they look at me and they're like, and then
deer in the headlights.
And they go back down and like finish what they were doing and then run off. Black hoodie, backpack. This is my police report.
Right.
And when I got closer, I smelled spray paint, and it was the same stupid tag that's on my trash can, the same stupid tag that's all over this neighborhood that we live in. And I can't unsee it now. And it's exactly what they want. I can't stop seeing the same tag. It's in South Burlington. It's in the North End. It's on buildings. It's on telephone poles. It's on trash cans. It's on like mailboxes. They even do stickers that said, hello, my name is, and then put their tag on telephone poles, which I think is cute. That's cute. But very uninspired tag otherwise. It's just a 4-letter tag in plain white lettering.
The thing about it, like, where my opinion is on it is, I don't think that you should be doing it on private property. Like if it's in a parking garage stairwell that already smells like urine, like I don't care. Like it's not like I'm gonna hang out in the stairwell after I park my car. But, if you do it on the side, like somebody did it on Advanced Music, and the tag sucks. And
it does suck. I've seen that.
I know that,
that's a historical building, too.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, not only that, but just it's a crappy tag. And, I hope that one of the 4 people that listens to our podcast is one of these people, so I can tell them, your tag sucks. You buy some cardboard boxes and figure out how to do some artistic level graffiti.
Yeah, it's like you're learning how to do art at the expense of like crapping up the public image in Burlington. It's like, and people are so nice here and so respectful of the space we live in. There's so few graffiti artists, and I'm sure there's more that I just don't know about. And maybe they're more tasteful. Maybe they go to more secluded locations that only that the tagging community knows about here. But like, this one stupid tag that we've seen dominates the entire, and I don't even want to say it because why give them any?
Yeah, no, they don't get. It's like it's the lower. It's obviously a much lower level on the crime level, but it's like a mass shooter. Like you don't give them credit for their tag. You don't let the public know their name, their tag, like anything associated. It's like you're just gonna be forgotten because you're an asshole.
Equating local graffiti artists with mass shooters. This is the messaging I want to put out there. It's right up there. It's
not up there in terms of the damage, but I'm just saying, it's like if you're doing something that you shouldn't get recognition for, the best thing we can do is just completely ignore publicly what you're doing.
So on my radio show in college, we used to have this discussion all the time, which was obviously fraternities have parties where people are drinking underage. That's no secret.
Really?
Yeah, it's been going on too. I know. I was just as surprised as you were when I got to college.
We had scanners at our fraternity for the IDs.
Oh yeah.
And we, took the IDs and went like this, and it was like, I don't really know. Yeah.
I'm sure it was very strict at your college in Indiana. Not that I'm not downplaying your college, but I don't. When I think public school in Indiana, I don't think heightened security at frat parties.
It's funny that you say that though. Is I was actually risk management for my fraternity briefly.
Oh, were you?
And we were at the precipice for why you can't have fun anymore with how much technology has evolved, because it was right when people started buying crackberries and flip phones started getting decent cameras. And we started checking people's cell phones, and they'd still have their own little the Sony cyber cams or whatever.
Because you didn't want people taking photos at your parties.
We checked it because we had Facebook then, and so
that wouldn't
it was
fly
like
now. That wouldn't fly at all.
Oh, well, it wouldn't matter.
Everyone's on their phone at all times at frat parties now.
But
everything's documented.
You check yourself before you wreck ourselves. Like, it's not happening.
I think there's a direct correlation, like a very vertical line. On the y-axis is difficulty of being a fraternity risk management officer, and on the x-axis is time. It's
we had to lay the law down on that, and we were lucky enough that we had some. I can't go into details on that. Even 10
best
years later, but
statute of limitations. But in the best interest of everyone's future.
We had alumni in the right places. That's all I'll say.
Oh my God!
Not on campus, but
so I had a radio show in college, and we would always talk about how the people who can't uphold the laws or make the worst showing of upholding the law make it bad for the rest of us. So, Penn State party school, tens of thousands of kids. And, one fraternity, let's say, has a kid visit the fraternity. And this happened at Penn State. And it's not really fun to talk about, but the kid I don't think he was a member of any fraternities. He had visited a fraternity, and later that night he fell to his death. And because he was, I don't even know if he was served at the fraternity, but he was at the fraternity on the night of his death. Yeah. Everything shut down for like minimum 3 weeks, like no parties, no nothing, a huge overhaul of all these rules. And
somebody dies and it was only 3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks for a school of 40,000 kids to make them stop socializing for 3 weeks. Trust me, that feels like a pretty big punishment.
Yeah, but I mean,
especially considering the case. Without getting into it, I mean, it
would have been gone at UVM.
They just made fraternities as a whole look really bad. Like, they decided to blame the fraternities. And this is years ago. We rehashed this over and over. Anyone who's listening to this that maybe I went to school with is like rolling their eyes at this point. But it's the schools that don't pay attention to who's at their parties, or the fraternities that don't pay attention, the fraternities that are over-serving and not monitoring and have no safety system and don't offer safe rides home and don't check IDs and stuff like that. Those are the fraternities that ruin it for the ones that kind of bend the rules, but responsibly. And, in the same way that, like, you can't allow graffiti. I'm sure that, and I don't know the facts, but I'm sure that the city of Burlington has some agreement with street artists to, illustrate certain, things such as the electrical boxes. I'm sure there's actually, oh my God, get out of here. My roommate just illustrated his tag on a pad of paper. I've never seen it, so good job. I'm sure it's only in the classiest places. It's a better tag than we've seen on the streets, though. Does Burlington have an agreement with these like street artists on electrical boxes and some abandoned buildings, or no? It just kind of goes by the wayside.
I can't speak to that because I'm not within that scene. But I would think that, with artists that have been out there a while, it would be, yes, excuse me, sorry.
I just think that one by.
So I made a nice little spicy pizza earlier, and
what was on it?
So I went Sandra Lee on this stuff. Sorry, I guess we're switching direction, but we will get back.
We will. Bookmark the graffiti.
Yeah. I had the meatballs that I smoked for 3 hours. By the way, did you have those? What did you think?
I did.
Were they okay?
I had the meatball by itself, and I'm still waiting. I forgot pasta sauce at the store. I don't make my own pasta sauce, which I should, but it gives me too much heartburn. And then Alfredo sauce is so bad for you. I can't really find, for Italian cooking, I'm kind of stuck, man. It's either clog my arteries or get heartburn. Though. It is so good.
It's so good. Well, dude, you're still, even if you throw the meatballs in the red sauce, you're still clogging your arteries. Do you think I made that like lean mean? Like
I did enjoy that the meatballs were smoked, though. I described it to a friend as redneck Italian.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not traditional at all. It's just like I want to.
Why be traditional? It's 2020,
and we live in Burlington. It's fusion. It's fusion.
Yeah, everything's fusion here because there's no real culture. Oh my god!
Whoa, buddy!
Please educate me. What's the real culture of Burlington? It's like 90.
Oh well, okay, Anglo. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter if it's Anglo. Even Anglos have culture, but you can't say. I would just take offense to that for Vermont, because for starters. Even though I really don't drink beer anymore, we have basically the best breweries in the world.
Yeah, okay.
On top of that, we have the best maple syrup in the world.
Yes.
Because once you magically cross those man-made arbitrary borders into New York, New Hampshire, or Quebec, the trees magically change, and ours are just far superior.
Well, I would be curious to talk to somebody who studies the environment, but they're not, in between New York and New Hampshire, they're barriers of water. They're not like divided, imaginary lines. You could say that as far as Canada goes, but even then you're talking, a different latitude.
We get all the.
I had to remember which one it was for a second.
We get the best water, the best climate. It's just perfect here in Vermont. You would not believe. Amazing.
It is, though. Not that I've sampled. I would, if anyone is interested in maybe filming a reality TV show where we sample the best maple syrups across New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Quebec, sure. Sign me up. I'll be your guy to go taste. But as far as what I have tasted, it's Vermont. Vermont's the best.
I want to come with, but basically just so I can listen to people from Quebec speak English because it's always funny.
So yeah, what I initially meant was that Vermont has no international culture. But let's bookmark that for a second. There is a lot of its own culture. You're right that maybe it doesn't need. I mean, it would be nice if we had more international culture, but we do have a culture of our own.
I've got to cut you off on that right now because of the fact that I have met multiple Europeans. Going to ski areas, like being on a chairlift with them, and also hearing other stories where people from Europe are being interviewed, and they're like, Vermont, some people will laugh and be like, ho ho ho, like whatever, that's why we don't like Vermont. But it's like, we're kind of the Europe of America.
New England or Vermont specifically?
Vermont specifically.
The Europe
in terms, and it's not exactly what I want to be known as, it being, but like at the same time, culturally, when it comes to like music and food and the art scene, it's like I take that as a compliment.
I mean, I think you'd have to be careful with what terminology you use. I think that Vermont as a territory is the most European influenced state in that. There's a lot of smaller towns, and I think the individuals are more empowered. And New England as a whole, you can just hop around and go to different cities. But yeah. Okay, let's make the definite list of Vermont culture.
Okay, there's no definitive list of Vermont culture, man. Like you can't do that. But I mean,
red and black flannel, bears, moose. I haven't seen a moose since I moved here.
Okay, you're still... Okay, New Hampshire and Maine can say that. And actually, Maine and New Hampshire probably have more moose than we do. Our moose... Random fun fact for you, our moose population is, like, really declined. So, we can't do the moose there. But we've got better maple syrup. We've got better beer. We have better bands. And I would love for New Hampshire or Maine to say that they've got anything that can stand up to what we've had.
Portland, Maine has probably more concert venues than we do in Burlington. I think they get bigger acts in Portland, Maine, but I think we really do a great job.
No, they don't.
No?
I've got to interrupt you right there. Have you seen what Higher Ground has been booking for Shelburne at the Green?
Oh yeah, well I was gonna say outdoor venues we have them beat. There's Shelburne, there's the Waterfront in Burlington. and the Essex. I think we even talked about this
Champlain
last
Valley.
time, but yeah, the Champlain Valley
Champlain
Expo
Valley.
Center in Essex. A lot of big artists do come through there, but only in the summertime. We are limited for indoor venues, but Higher Ground is pretty sweet.
Yeah, but I'm not a diehard. But when was the last time Phish played in Maine? Oh, that's right. It was before 2011. It's probably back before they broke up. For a number of years.
When did they play in Burlington or in Vermont?
They played at Essex, Champlain Valley, in 2011 after the Hurricane Irene. They did a benefit for Hurricane Irene, and that was an interesting show. Is like, I didn't, I've only seen Phish a handful of times, and it was usually friends dragging me over to it. And it wasn't my favorite Phish show because it was like they did all the poppy stuff, but it was cool and it was fun because you had all these people that actually, were diehard Phish people back when I was 6 years old, when they were
because they started in Burlington, really. That's
they went to college in Burlington and they're like doctors and lawyers and accountants now. And, like the show that they put on was like these people are now older and they brought their kids and, they played all their hits. They didn't get too weird, like I didn't see a Split Open and Melt or Twist and see that go on a totally different tangent, but they played songs that most people like, and that was that. It was
by the way,
and it raised money for Irene relief. So
great cause. Cool. We do have to break for our sponsor. Today's podcast is sponsored by absolutely nobody, and this podcast is over when our Zoom free trial. Our podcast is sponsored by Zoom and the free trial of Zoom, and when that's over and we cut off abruptly, that's how you know it's over. So. We'll just have fun with that, unless we decide to wrap up sooner. Before we do wrap up, though, I think we should quickly talk about the current restrictions in Vermont and compare them to maybe major cities. This conversation between you and I got started regarding concerts in the first place because Missouri opened up concert venues. Now, my thing is, a lot of states are reopening operations like retail and grocery stores with less restrictions, although a lot of them are requiring masks and stuff. But a concert venue, A, it seems like a bad idea, and B, who's going to play it? Who's going to go and who's going to play the concert? Like, that's not really a great idea, in my opinion, to reopen a venue. Although professional sports, the NFL just announced it's coming back in August. But right now, would you go to a concert?
Wow, you're trying to put me on the spot here.
Yeah, it's a yes or no question, man. I guess it would depend on the band, then, wouldn't it? I think that's what your answer is. Like, if your favorite band was playing a concert right now, you would risk it, but you wouldn't just do it to get out of the house.
No, I definitely wouldn't do it just to get out of the house. That being said, Billboard Billboard.com was how I found out about Missouri opening that stuff up. And, it's two-factored. Kansas City and St. Louis, their mayors both said that their stuff is still going to be closed. And then on top of that, a number of other major venues, and I don't know Missouri very well, I'm sorry. But I think
say Columbia, it like a Midwesterner, Missouri.
Well, I've been to St. Louis a number of times. I love that town, actually. If people that consider the Midwest flyover states, if they do a little research and you have to have a connecting flight, stay a little while, friendly people, it's cheap as hell, and it's a cool place to visit, and I'm sure that they would be happy to get your tourist dollars just like everyone else in the nation would right now.
Yeah.
But, that being said, a lot of the major venues throughout the state, even though they're opening these things up, it's not going to be, a lot of them aren't going to be open either by the mayor of a city's request or because the venues have decided not to open.
States just want that money, though. They want that money coming in.
Well, I think people also
money and travel.
I think people also just want to have a good time again. And that being said, the way that they're doing the opening up, and who knows how it will work, but they've basically said that there's got to be social distancing procedures that are put in place. The venues are responsible for it. So they said it like Vegas, but not like Vegas's mayor kind of disastrously said it with the casinos.
That was a rough press conference.
Ooh.
Not as bad as I thought it would be, though. Not as bad as I thought it would be. because I have a heart, and she just seemed like a confused old lady.
I didn't see the concert or the conference, and I know nothing about her, but I was just like,
it wasn't. I felt bad for her. I usually err on the side of feeling bad for somebody. Like I like to see the good in people, and she's basically like, well, I don't own a casino, so I don't know how it would work, but I think they should open. And Anderson Cooper was like, okay, but you know that it's not safe, right? She's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, if you were opening a casino, how would you do it safely? And she's like, well, I don't know. I'm not a casino owner. And he's like, yeah, but you know about the virus. You know that it's what makes people at risk. How would you do it? See, this is what you do, Anderson. You put people on the spot and you make them all nervous, and I'm not going to fall for your traps. And I was like, oh, man. And like, she didn't mean anything bad. I think, and here's the thing. I think the link between, the lawmakers in Missouri and the Las Vegas mayor, which, by the way, is not Paradise, where most of the casinos are, Las Vegas, their mayor, I think what they really are saying is that, like, hey, if y'all are cool with it and you can find a safe way to do it, I'm not going to stop you. They don't want to be responsible for it. And the Las Vegas mayor, the Las Vegas mayor went a little further and encouraged it. But yeah, exactly. No one wants to be responsible. But
I mean, that's the crazy thing. Yeah. So sorry.
Well, I was gonna say it's so hard to track where you get the virus that, like, I mean, you could when Florida reopened beaches, that's they could easily track a lot of people catching the virus to that. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there is some way. Well, you can ask these people where they've been, I guess, is how you figure it out. So justice is served after a while.
Have you followed Sweden at all in the past few days? Honestly, I'll admit I was kind of like, all right, cool. Sweden's like doing their thing and, staying open and everything. And things are starting to blow up. And one of my friends who is a doctor a month ago was just like, dude, you look at the models and, like, even though models usually are, exaggerated, in terms of epidemiology, he's like, they don't have the hospital beds for this stuff, and they're going to have a huge, huge number of deaths.
Sweden? Because they reopened?
Well, because they never closed down.
Oh, because they never closed down.
Yeah.
So they're still waiting for this spike, you're saying?
Yeah, so basically June and July is going to be the peak, supposedly, on this modeling. But, like, right now it's already spiked pretty bad. And it's not that they didn't close down. Like, They kept schools open, I believe. They stopped doing gatherings over 50 people. But restaurants, bars, you could still go out to those. Like, there weren't a lot of restrictions on everything else.
Yeah.
And, the head of their chief epidemiologist, for lack of a better term, I don't know what the Swedish organization is, but, like, basically 3 or 4 days ago was like, yeah, this might not have been the best option. So
we messed up.
But then again, you look at Vermont and, like, we've had 52 cases or 52 fatalities, and approximately 700 of 900 people that have gotten it have recovered at this point.
Okay.
And we have a population of 628,000, and almost all the fatalities occurred within senior living facilities. Like, honestly, like half a dozen.
Yeah, for you and me, that means, like, a little bit of relief. But think about how tragic that is for those facilities and, like, the people working there, dude. That's so rough.
Oh, it's horrible. Like, no, that's absolutely horrible. But the idea, the other thing that's rough. Sorry, it's probably a controversial viewpoint, but in terms of the overall scale of everyone that's in the state and what those specific facilities could do to lock down, it would be a lot easier for them to do that than to lock down the entire state. And the repercussions that we're going to have with mental health, physical well-being, and economic well-being, especially with our government, like our state legislature at this point, our state government, we haven't even seen, like, anything close to the bottom of the barrel at this point.
Yeah, I think we talk about that for hours. We were talking the other day on the phone about how the food supply is the scariest thing. They did have to shut down a couple meat plants, but I mean, I've been grocery shopping at 3 different stores so far. Nothing's crazy yet, but obviously those things take 2 weeks to kick in. If you shut down a major pork plant, then you're still going to have it on the shelves as the supply chain is still moving, but it just gets cut off at a certain point, like the lemmings stop coming out of the hole.
Yeah, well, you gotta I don't know if you're familiar with how JIT supply chains work, just in time.
No.
So a just-in-time supply chain is where you produce your good and get it shipped just in time for the next portion of manufacturing, like the next part of manufacturing to take place. Yeah. And so when they close those pork plants down, I don't know if you've seen articles, but there are factories that have shut down. These pork producers, like the actual farms, were supposed to be able to deliver their goods, and they haven't been able to deliver their goods. So they have either had to try to find alternative methods to do it, but right now a lot of them are slaughtering their stuff, which we don't have to worry about that as much in Vermont because a lot of these guys still are doing this local in small time facilities. Yeah. They can figure it out. But these guys out in the Midwest or down south in like Texas, they're having to slaughter stuff and just dump it.
I will say in the in the doomsday preparedness, I think Vermont's probably pretty high on the list of states. I mean, we could probably self-sustain better than most states could.
Yeah, no, we definitely could.
Oh no. You hear that?
That's why you're over there. Don't come over to my house, man.
Oh man. Let's hope that was just allergies. I do have allergies and they are back. My eyes have been puffy, but
Buddy can come over and talk with Katniss, but you're not allowed right now.
The sneeze heard round the world. I do want to talk about the implications in Vermont, since we both are, and the few people listening probably will be too. Or maybe they aren't, and they care about us, and they want to know how things are up here. Let's think of that. When you were talking about the context of music, I love that probably small venues will be the first to reopen. Local bands, baby. Local bands will come back stronger. And isn't that like so pure where it's, the real musicians that live in your town will be the ones that come out and entertain you again? Like these fancy Hollywood stars doing their 80 city tours across America and Europe, they're all shut down and locked up in their Beverly Hills mansions. But, Joe that lives down the street that has a band that plays on Wednesday nights is going to get his gig back probably long before those guys will. I like that. I think it's cool. Because it's less people in a room.
I hate to be pessimistic about that, but based on what I kind of know on numbers with my limited experience in the music industry, a lot of the local musicians really depended on the fact that they were playing at venues where people kind of were tourists.
True.
Being able to travel around. And if the tourists aren't going to be here in the next few months, even if everything opens up, I mean, Vermont's, this is the positive side of it is like, and, people just being cooped up for a while is I'm hoping that at least Vermonters, like, we don't need out of state right now. I think that Phil Scott, our governor, was, right on that. But I hope that if we are able to start opening stuff up, that a lot of Vermonters will come out and enjoy local musicians and help them out and make sure that these guys can, do their thing. But I don't think it's, we're not gonna see a resurgence immediately right now. There's no way.
No, it'll be slowly. Certain venues will be willing to take the risk. I can think of certain venues without naming any. Not because not that I'd want to make them look bad. That's not even the context I'm trying to bring up. But certain venues stayed open right until the restrictions. And whether that's good or bad,
we didn't know. Yeah, we didn't I didn't. We were ill prepared. We were very ill prepared.
The chain of communication was not coming from the right places either. I'll say that most of it was coming from Facebook and social media before it was coming from the government, which it tends to do. But I think there was anyway, even local government was a little bit slow. But yes, it will take people supporting their own, like really coming out in their own town. And it will take certain bars being like the first to open. Like, far be it for me to judge anybody for what they think is an appropriate time to open once the restrictions are lifted. Like if a bar is allowed to open and have, like let's say a 75 person max, I think it's their choice whether to I wouldn't look at a bar or a restaurant or something that serves the public in that manner of entertainment, hospitality, that chooses to reopen when it's allowed. I would never look at them and pass judgment. It's just up to me whether I patronize them or not. What I feel comfortable with. But when I feel comfortable, I'm going to support local venues again. And like you said, I would hope other Vermonters do the same.
I think, in an ideal world, and unfortunately with our state, we don't live in an ideal world because we have, and I don't mean any offense to second homeowners or those that do like to come up here, but the worry that I have, much like basically anyone that lives in Vermont full time, is that once we open the floodgates, we're gonna have a lot of people coming in that are in highly populated, highly infected areas, and it's like I've got friends from there. I instruct at a major mountain in Vermont, and a lot of my clientele are second homeowners, and they're great people, and I think they practice great social distancing. Like I've talked to them since they've been down there, but to me it's just like a lot of people are gonna see this and be like, oh, Vermont's open, let's go up there again. It's like,
aside from the people that already have that, like,
if you're already here, cool, but it's like
I don't have to go into the office in Hartford for the next however many months. Let's just go up to the place in Vermont. Let's wait it out there. But I don't think those people are really bothering anyone. But like you said, after all this, I've read in articles that there are 8 different strains. So you could be bringing a different strain up that people are less immune to. But at the same time, I've read reports that it is not likely the COVID-19, strain of, or family of virus strains, I guess, is not expected to mutate quicker than we can develop a vaccine and get it out to people.
Yeah, I mean, one of my friends that I was talking to in the medical profession, he was talking about that, and he was like, well, what's going to be really interesting is it's one of these unique situations where we have been worried enough that they're starting to develop, a lot of stuff a lot more quickly and like coming through in terms of, the launch. But the other thing that he said that, is possibly a silver lining is that we might, this is all basically going to be genetic engineering from what I understand, like taking this and like trying to figure out what the vaccine is. I mean, the way that we're able to pick apart these things now, apparently. And by the way, like I'm sorry, I'm not trying to sound like the YouTube videos that are getting deleted. But, apparently, and he's against the people that are, saying these things, but apparently the way that it's going to work is it's going to hopefully potentially unleash new innovation in terms of how we approach this, so that if and when new strains happen, because these things mutate, we can have a quicker response on it and we can be more confident.
And more prepared for if they're saying there's going to be a second wave next year. I wouldn't immediately lose your cool at that thought. I would say, we're obviously aware that that's going to happen, and we'll prepare for it.
The flu does it.
Right.
The flu does it.
So very quickly, the restrictions relaxed. There's this cool graphic I found. I mean, you can't. I've sent it to you. It's on your. I texted it to you. 3 bullet points. I mean, the governor put out a long list of what's cool and what's not cool. People on a local Facebook group here were kind of trashing it, saying, well, it's contradictory because they're saying in some instances, like, you're allowed to go to work, but you have to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart. But then they're saying that you can have friendly social gatherings if 10 people or fewer. So which is it? If there's only 3 people at your work, and it's like, well, do what you want, man. Like, do what you're comfortable. Obviously, these are guidelines. No one's. We're not in a military state right now where it's like you can't. You have a little bit of individual liberty, but go ahead.
I haven't checked. Because I've been looking for clarification on this, especially with, I guess there's this interesting winter event that's going to happen this weekend, and
whether you can go uphill.
there was no guidance whatsoever whether you could or couldn't.
I would do it then.
My only question is looking at your text message that you sent me.
Yeah.
Like golf courses and trail networks.
Yeah, so
what's a trail network? Because I know some trails.
Yeah. Here are the restrictions that are relaxed in short. There's much more than this, but here's a graphic going around. Vermonters can resume gatherings of 10 people or fewer, preferably outdoors with proper precautions. Vermonters may socialize with members of other households known to be following precautions. And third, parks and many outdoor recreation businesses like golf courses and trail networks can reopen. So, will we see a ski resort open for 2015 in Vermont? Probably not.
No, but I'm not talking about the resort opening. I'm just saying uphill travel. Like, I don't care if I have to hike up. And a lot of people don't, and a lot of people were doing that before.
Rich, at the very worst, use the Dave Chappelle defense. I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate defense. There you go. I think you should go for it. They just don't want you getting hurt and having to go to the hospital. I know Stowe specifically posted something about that. The ski patrol, not the resort, not Vail. The ski patrol was like, "Hey, somebody broke their leg today," or whatever it was, and like it took us a while to find them. Like it took us 2 hours, and this is not. Don't quote me on this. This is not a real story. Let's just go with some ski resort. This happened somewhere. Even this is hypothetical. Yeah. Somebody got hurt. Took us 2 hours to find them. They were okay, but like we don't have resources to help you if you're hurt, and that's what we're here for, and we want to. And in a little, like it is kind of disrespectful to people that are policing these environments. But if you're touring and going in the backcountry anyway, I guess you're not too concerned about that. If you're exploring wild terrain in Vermont. But I know that private resorts will not be happy if you're using their like man-made base, man-made or otherwise. If you're going to a ski resort for uphill travel, they're not going to be happy about it.
Well, the thing about that is that I agree with the idea, especially when everything was starting to peak and accelerate. I definitely, especially in Vermont with our limited healthcare facilities and what we were worried about with projections, that people should not have been venturing onto that. That being said, I also think that people should have been able to utilize man-made trails, but it shouldn't be somebody that's coming up here out of state on the weekends that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And there are people that can come up here out of state on the weekends that do know what they're doing, but you're still being a douchebag for coming from a highly populated area and tailgating here, because that was, one of the main things that shut down a lot of the remaining areas that were permitting uphill travel, was these people were coming up here and they were tailgating in the parking lot and they weren't respecting social distancing.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Because it's overall, if you do it right, it's not hard to social distance doing uphill travel.
Full circle. The idiots ruin it for the rest of us. Should you be able to travel uphill? Yeah, but it's the people that make us look bad that are the reasons. And I think that could be our final thought of the day. Is that graffiti artists with boring tags, people who throw tailgates when they're supposed to be social distancing, and mass shooters, all in the same category.
This is why we can't have nice things.
You heard it here first. I think that was good. I think we should wrap it up before Zoom kicks us off. But Rich, that was a pleasure, man. Thanks for chatting.
Always.
With me. All right, we'll see you soon.
Always a pleasure.
Always. We'll cook soon, man. We'll get together and make some.
We need to.
And we need to cover
I'm
food.
Done with my leftovers.
We need to cover food on the next episode. We've both been cooking a lot, failing and succeeding. We need to discuss some of that.
Grady wants wingies.
I do. I made wings. We'll get to that next time. And this, if this were a news show, this is where they'd be rolling the credit music and they would slowly be panning away from me as I struggle to say the last words. But thanks.